Andy Herson said that their combo of Stevens and Gallup is one of the better ones he said probably in the country. What about those two makes them so good, and the fact that everyone knows he's going to try to throw it to Gallup and he still gets open?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter who they're playing. I mean, they've played some really good teams, obviously this year, including Alabama, and they're making plays against them. So, they're both really good players, and I'm sure they spent a lot of time in the offseason with their timing and in terms of routes and things like that, and very productive. You look at the stat line, and it shows. You watch the film, and it shows even more. So we're definitely going to have our hands full with that, with those two, and then obviously they do an excellent job in the run game. They're each and every year, the things they do within the run game, scheme-wise, and fundamentally how they work as an offensive line up front. They're pretty good.
When you're watching their previous games, obviously played in the snow and stuff. Does that make it tougher at all, and when you're watching film? And how much do you usually put on the last game compared to like previous games? And do you think obviously they maybe did some things differently because of the weather?
Yeah, weather is definitely a factor in that. I mean, you watch the end of the first half and click over to the second half when that starts, and it's a totally different deal. It's a whiteout. And obviously they had to deal with those conditions, and it affected. I mean, what anybody would be able to do. And both teams really, and kind of what the game turned into at that point. So you got to obviously take that with a grain of salt. Yes.
I think that you look at Colorado State, and they got a 1,000-yard receiver. You guys got one that the guy that's well on his way to 1,000 yards. They have a 1,000-yard back. Alexander's probably on his way there, and then all Mountain West caliber quarterback. You got one of those.
Yeah.
Do you see some similarities in them with what you guys go against every day in practice?
I think so. I think there is. Both offenses are multiple. They could operate out of one-back sets, two-back sets. They got, offenses usually, they give you some trouble and present a lot of issues if there's wide receivers that are very talented and quarterback that could do a good job operating and getting the ball where it needs to be, and then you add the run game element into there. And so I think there is some similarities. It's going to be a huge challenge this week, and ultimately we have to be aware, obviously of formations and where certain guys are lined up, and but ultimately, like always, it comes down to us. We got to do a great job.
From a confidence standpoint or a mental standpoint for your defense, how important will it be to kind of try to win more of those battles than you lose, so you can get off the field?
Yeah, no question. I think that's always a big part of the game. It creates momentum. Obviously, puts our when we're able to get off the field, it puts our offense back on the field. It creates momentum, confidence, all that stuff. But I mean, they've been able to be really successful on third downs and within the passing game is just because it's not Gallup. It's a lot of other guys that their wide receiver core in general is talented. There's a lot of other production there as well. And they do a nice job with the tight ends, and they got their plays within the passing game as well. So I think spreading the ball around, obviously their coaches do a good job within the schemes and things like that, and the quarterback does a great job managing it and getting the ball and being able to read coverages and get the ball where, to the open windows.
Last Monday, BJ asked you, last Monday about your defensive line depth maybe being tested.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe at the point you didn't even know if you would have Moa, and then you had Durant out after the first play.
Right.
How do you think you guys handled that? You're down essentially two starters for pretty much the entire game.
Yeah. The guys stepped up. They got their opportunity to get in there. I think it was a great learning experience for all, including obviously the individuals. They got to play more. It'll be a great opportunity for them to move forward and learn off the things they did well, and obviously the things they need to improve on. But rallied together, and we had to make some adjustments early on in that game, and obviously dealing with some personnel things as well. And the guys handled the adjustments, and once we got settled in, they did a pretty good job. There were some guys that played that haven't played really at all, and they did some pretty solid things. So it was exciting to see. Obviously, we got to make some big improvements, this week at practice.
You knew you wouldn't have Moa, though, probably, so you could game plan for that. But after literally one play, when you lose Miles, how much harder was that to all of a sudden, on the fly, have to?
No question. I mean, and it's really, it just adds a whole nother element to the in-game adjustments, that you have to handle. Nevada did a great job with some things over the bye week that we had to adjust to, and with all the other stuff going on, with a couple guys getting banged up. But you know what? That's why we practice. That's why guys work hard, and we tell them all the time. You never know when those situations are gonna come up. So we always got to be ready to go. We got to be preparing like we're the starters, because when you get your opportunity to jump in there, you want to make the most of it. And those guys, like I said, they did a pretty good job.
You talked a few different times this year about adjustments. I know the guys talked about after the game that those first couple of drives you guys had to make some adjustments. Mechanically, how do you guys do that? Your staff is split upstairs and downstairs. How do you guys get that done, get it communicated, make it reasonably simple enough that the guys can figure out what you're doing within 5 minutes and send them back out there?
Right, and so you always kind of want to try to foresee some things that may pop up, and you don't always necessarily, you don't want to bog the guys down with information that, but as a coaching staff, you got to kind of have an understanding of some things that could pop up, and we're looking for those things that, as we go throughout the game, and, sometimes new things pop up that an offense hasn't done. And you got to do a great job, number one, with communication, and it starts up in the box. Everyone's got their responsibilities in terms of what they're watching throughout the game, whether it be the front seven, the back seven, and how it kind of all goes together, and then us in the box relaying the information to the coaches on the field, and this is really where, the biggest component is, we sit in the room and we communicate this stuff all the time to each other as a coaching staff, but taking that information and getting it to the players in a simple, concise way in the midst of a battle, that's the challenge of it. And I think the coaches here in recent weeks have done a good job. And obviously this week we're gonna see some things, because these coaches do a really good job and they have some really good players. We're gonna have to, I'm sure the situation is gonna be no different this week.
Any rules, or what can we do in terms of actually, I know in the NFL they have the tablets.
Right.
I know you guys have the TV broadcast probably, but you guys can't go watch any all-22 film or anything between drives or anything?
No, you got to see with your eyes, unless you're lucky enough to maybe the board replays it again, and you get to take a look. But you got to see it all with your eyes. That's where we all have responsibilities and what we're supposed to be watching for that reason, because we don't have that luxury that they do in the NFL.
Is that a rule that you can't do it, or you just don't have the money or capabilities of having a system where you could watch replays more often and stuff in the box or something?
No, I know they've talked about getting that going in college football. So we'll see, if that goes and it becomes like what it is in the NFL, which obviously would be a little bit easier, because there's no rewind right now. It's like you either catch it or you don't, or like I said, you're lucky enough that they replay it on the board, which a lot of times, within the course of a game, there's a lot going on, and you got to be on point, and those are things that we practice and we talk about all the time in terms of everybody's responsibilities, and the coaches and the players have done a pretty good job with it, with what we got to work with.
Keiko picked up another interception this past weekend.
Yeah.
I was wondering what stood out to you about his play this season.
He's just, he's got really good ball skills and good instincts. He does a really nice job playing in zone, as well, and the guy prepares, and so he knows, when by certain formations and stuff, when his opportunities are going to pop up, what teams run out of certain formations and stuff like that, and so, it's really him doing a nice job of preparing and then getting on the field and trying to make the most of, what he's done throughout the week.
And you guys haven't allowed more than 14 points in a 5-game stretch.
Mm-hmm.
The last time you guys had a stretch like that, you're playing, it was in 2002. So, what do you remember about that defense? And do you see any similarities between maybe?
That's a long time ago. That's a long. There is.
Between that group and this group, and
I don't know that
Gabe had 8 picks that year too.
Well, shoot. Yeah, let's get him rubbing off on the whole defense. We could use more of those. No, I think one of the biggest things is just being around, back then, and what we got going right now. Even with the youth, there's a lot of self-motivation. There is a lot of self-motivation, and I think that plays a big part in how they prepare each and every week, and really every day, It's very easy to get caught up, in the outside stuff going on, and just really trying to keep the guys focused. And really for them, it really comes down to them buying into that and being self-motivated to keep to the task at hand and being able to have that competitive, relentless mindset too.
I know I said it a long time ago, but is there anything that really stands out about that team, a player or whoever kept you guys on track or anything like that at all?
You know what? I mean, I think you look back at so far, but it's hard to pinpoint one. But what we're trying to do is, like I said, just make sure that competitive mindset is there every single day, especially at practice, and to have fun with it really is what it is, and to hold each other to a standard, that we set out in the beginning and don't deviate from that, regardless of situations or, whatever the case may be.
You obviously had a big recruiting weekend last weekend.
Yeah.
With the early signing period, I'm curious, are you guys approaching it differently? Do you notice recruits wanting to, commit earlier? How have you noticed maybe here 6 weeks, whatever it is, before, signing day, any differences?
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy, huh? It's usually just junior college, and you get a couple guys here or there that sign early, but yeah, it's changing. And so we're going through it for really the first time, the first go around. And so as we experience this and maneuver through it and learn and grow as we go to be better the next time around, yeah, things are different. They're moving. Everything seems like it's sped up a little bit here, but you try to do as much work leading up into the season, on the recruiting grounds, so that you feel up to speed and you're not rushed during the season. Well, it's like I said, it's the first time through here in a few weeks, so we'll see how it goes and make the adjustments and learn from it, and move on.
Is this the balanced offense you guys have faced? I mean, I think maybe Virginia being close. I don't know how you see it.
I would say so. They're extremely balanced and productive. It's like some teams, they're pretty good at one or the other, but I mean, they do a great job in the run game. I mean, you talk about the run game opens up the pass game, and the pass game opens up the run game. Extremely balanced and productive. Their coaches do a good job.
How do you evaluate the season that Tyler Horton's having? I mean, I know that you think you like the mass amount of interceptions that a guy like Dante Dion might have gotten in the past, but he's beat facing a guy like Michael Gallup this weekend too. So how would you kind of evaluate how Tyler's been this year?
The T's developed a ton from last year, physically and mentally, and that's one of the biggest things is just, just seeing the progress of him as an individual, and that's what you would like to see as guys grow over the time here. His accountability and the way he, once again, comes to work, and what you see is what the way he preps, the way he practices, and he's been really, really consistent for us at his position, and obviously at his position, that's a huge thing. That is a huge thing because it's not easy living out there. You know what I'm saying? And each and every week, he's got to step up and handle a big part, of what's going on within the game plan, and the guys he lines up against are really, really good players as well. And obviously, that's going to be the case as well this week.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, guys.